everyone. You are welcome to the Exceptional Professional. My name is Ayokunu Akintayo, and you know what it is when you see the radiant host. It's all about inclusion and diversity, advocating for the inclusion of persons with disabilities. That's what we do here on the Exceptional Professionals. And I have a world-class professional here today, the Unapologetic Humanitarian, Dr. Akhere Marian, Akran. Yeah, welcome, Mama. Thank you so much, man. So let's meet you. Tell us your name. What do you do, and why do you do what you do, Ma?
So my name is Dr. Akhere Marian Akran, like you have said earlier, and I'm a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategist with a specialty in disability advocacy, inclusion, as well as ensuring that no child is left behind. I run a not-for-profit, which is about 14 years old now, which has several projects under it, including the St. Agatha's Inclusive Learning Center, the Prosperous Children Education Project. I also have the Disability Arts, Robotics, Technology, and Safety Project, as well as the Teach a Child to Build project. Above all, there is the Special People, Special Stories project, all in a bid to continually advocate for the inclusion of persons with disabilities as well as vulnerable persons who have been disenfranchised from access to basic amenities, including education.
Amazing. So what is your major inspiration? What inspires you to do so much? There's so much on your table, like you just mentioned, and I'm surprised.
I know, right? So there's usually the big why that is the question for everyone, where they say, what is your why? So for me, I'd like to say that it is as a result of having a secondary lived experience with disabilities. So I have a cousin who is deaf. I have an aunt as well who is deaf, as well as my mother, my late mother-in-law, right? Who was blind until she passed. Started with my cousin who lived with us, and my mom literally did not see that he had a disability. So she would relate to him like a regular person, which is part of the campaign. When I say who needs to be normal is boring, she would relate to him like a regular person without even capping his abilities. I also was privileged to be the one to take him to school. He attended Wesley. This was way back in 2003, 2004, I guess.
That's over 20 years ago. Wow.
Yes, he attended Wesley School for the Deaf. So I used to be the one to take him and also do the school runs, basically. And I think that got me used and intrigued in the deaf culture. Also, that was also a period when I was doing my teaching practice students of education. Completing your degree, you have to undergo compulsory teaching practice.
Yes.
I would see students literally on the way to school. I did my teaching practice, by the way, in Erimore High School, Sulere. So this was very close to State Grammar School in Sulere, State High School in Sulere. And
yeah,
I used to pick up kids in this particular uniform, green and grey. So that was how I knew that they were the ones that used to wear green and grey, and the other guys would wear yellow, right? And I would just pick up different sets of people. There was a day I didn't. It almost turned to a rubble because everybody was trying to claim, no, she's my own, no, she's my own. And I'm like, no, you know what? I'm for all of you. I know all of you because I've had interactions with all of you at different times. It was very interesting. It's something that I do not regret getting into. I think that I love the life that I live at the moment, and I remain entirely unapologetic working with persons with disabilities.
Preach, ma'am. Preach, ma'am. That's amazing. Wow, I'm glad. See, what inspired you now to focus on no child should be left behind, and it reflects your vision of continually advocating for the need of everybody to be included, and with your hashtag of who needs to be normal, no child should be left behind. That is really inspiring. So over the years, you have a nonprofit that has been running for over 14 years. So can you share some of the key strategies for promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in the educational settings, particularly through your works at St. Agatha's Inclusive Learning Center, ma'am?
So I would say that first things first, you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot give what you do not have. I mean, that has always been some sort of motivation. And again, there's also the saying, charity begins at home. And then I met an elderly person who said, but doesn't end charity begins at home. It must not stop there. So even having supported family members who have disabilities, there was a call and a need to extend it outwards. Also, some of the strategies that I usually would go out, especially when I'm training teachers and when I'm maybe having some public awareness, I would usually say the watchword or the number one strategy is empathy. Empathy and compassion. empathy and compassion. This is because if you do not somehow relate with the conditions or with the state, so to speak, of persons with disabilities, there's really nothing you can do about it. Every intervention that you're going to be doing will be hinged on pity, and pity never gets the job done. Pity, some people do it basically because maybe they want to be seen and heard. I don't know. There's also the nuance now about disability inclusion or advocacy being the watchword, and then so they want to be recognized, and all those things. However, that is not the case. The major strategy for ensuring and sustaining interventions of any sort is hinged on empathy. Second, it would mean also ensuring that your intervention meets their needs. Now, what is the specific needs of the persons that you're trying to support? And how are you trying to meet their needs? Would be to acknowledge diversity, ensuring that you literally understand that there is no one size fits all intervention. But even if we're dealing with the deaf cluster, what works for one might not be what works for the other one. So ensuring that the intervention meets their needs, I tie that to equity, doing to people what they deserve. There's a fuss about equality, but equality without equity is a waste of time. So doing to people what they need. I use some sort of multi-layered approach, and this is also, I would say, training and capacity building of the teachers in my setting. Training and capacity building on instructional leadership, exposing them to real life scenarios whilst we have these children, exposing them also to what obtains elsewhere. So we take them out for trainings, take them out for symposiums, take them out for conferences, so that it is not because Dr. Miriam has said that is what it should be. Let them also go out and experience what it is. Again, we have flexible curriculums. What is actually a curriculum? What obtains in and out of the classroom. So it is not tied to a particular method that, okay, this is what we use to train all children with disability. No, we have different clusters of disabilities in the school. So ensuring that our instructional design and curriculum are flexible to also, again, equitably meet the needs of the children and other vulnerable persons in my setting, ensuring that they exist and can cohabit with others in a safe, conducive, and enabling environment. One other specific key strategy that I use is to also have people with lived experiences in the setting. So I have a blind teacher, I have a teacher with mental health issues, I have a teacher who has also delayed milestones, and parents. I also employ parents of these children. So that I feel like, if you have some sort of primary or secondary lived experience, you'll be able to support. But oftentimes, more than not, I think I've been wrong with that, which I'm also trying to review. But all these multi-layered interventions go side by side, and this in such a way raises awareness again and amplifies the need for inclusion. This is where I have also come again with this particular saying where I say inclusion is not charity, it is justice. It is not that you're trying to sort of pity those people who
You're
have.
trying to be nice.
Yes. It's not that you're trying to be overly nice. It's not that you're trying to do, hey, yeah, if you don't do, who will do it? No, it is justice. It is doing to people what they deserve. It is ensuring that the right of a person to live with dignity and also have dignified and work, is achieved. So that is what all of my major strategies. So it's a model of empowerment at the end of the day for what I do.
Wow. These are so powerful points. The multi-layered approach. It takes more than professionalism to achieve what you are achieving currently at St. Agatha's Inclusive Learning Center. And apart from you doing it with your secondary experience that you said you have, growing up, having persons with disabilities around you as family members, getting people who have the lived experiences, people who are currently parenting and know what's up, and people who are actually experiencing it at the moment. Wow. The world needs to see what is going on, as is in leadership.
SAILC.
You're doing well. So, now let's go to your Red Cross doings. How do you integrate emergency preparedness and safety practices into your work, especially in supporting vulnerable children and communities?
So you said Red Cross, but I like to sort of put a disclaimer to that it is not even about the Red Cross, first of all.
Okay.
It is so being a member of the Red Cross is a passion for humanity, and because I understand the importance of safety, emergency preparedness, as well as first aid. However, I before joining the Red Cross, I have already um, I think had over 6 or 7 certifications on emergency response and safety. So joining the Red Cross was just passion drives commitment, and then you look for institutions and organizations that sort of support, your lifestyle. I like to also add that the Red Cross is not only the association or organization that I belong to that is involved in health and safety. I am the DEI lead for an organization that is a for-profit, but we have CSR um, oftentimes for different clusters. So we've trained persons with disabilities of different clusters. So and that's first aid services. So how do I now integrate all this into the work that I do? First things first, dealing with persons who are vulnerable, either as a either due to ailments, due to disability, or due to age, is one of my specialty by the side. I also lecture. I'm a certified caregiver, so I lecture in the diploma in caregiving. And I take those courses as well. So this is something that I amplify all the time to say that as a professional, either a teacher or a caregiver, we cannot overemphasize the need for first aid information.
Mm.
If we're dealing with persons who are vulnerable, and I take vulnerability to be in this regard, again, persons who are aged or too young,
To need
persons who
difficult.
live with a disability, or
Yeah.
persons who are ill. They are the ones who would need people to care for them. And if we're dealing with persons with disability who already fall into the vulnerable cluster, then
Yeah.
we must ensure that we equip ourselves with the necessary skills to sustain and save
Sustain.
them. So
Yeah.
certified first aid, as certified because emergency situations are never planned. And some of these clusters of disability have medical conditions that might need emergency. Cerebral palsy, spinal bifida, muscular dystrophy, even for persons who are blind and deaf. Some people also live with comorbid disabilities, more than one disabilities, and they require attention. Even we who are mainstream and are adjudged to be neurotypical, at certain point in times, we also fall into emergency situations. And so
Yes.
there is the need to have the information. So as a first aid instructor, I usually ensure that my team, teachers in my school, are trained with emergency preparedness. So we do that at the beginning of every session. We retrain and train for emergency preparedness. Yes.
Wow.
And this is embedded in the core of the work that we do. I make bold to say that we have among our staff, right, a community health nurse who
Oh,
works in our school to also support. So, despite the fact that our teachers are trained, this community health nurse also supports emergency response and preparedness and also supports the children. This is
wow.
also to mention that the children that attend my school are from underprivileged background. So there's always the need to check certain
Check,
things.
check,
So this is
check.
embedded. Yes. So we have emergency preparedness and first aid as part of our school culture. I actually wrote a paper on the teachers' life-saving skills and quality basic education that was published in the Department of Health, Human Kinetics and Health Education, University of Lagos Journal, where one
Wow.
of my recommendations was to ensure that all teachers must have the basic skills to save life, to support different clusters of
That's,
children. So that might also reduce to an extent exclusion. We
mm,
engage in fire drills, we engage in simulations to support children, um, even basic life saving skills, CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, basic life support. And I've trained parents as well because they also need,
they also
the
need it.
skills.
Yes.
Yeah, so it is important to note that vulnerable communities would oftentimes more than not continue to face emergency situations.
Mm,
And this is why this skill is necessary. So we prioritize some sort of resilience building community by
Wow.
equipping both parents, teachers, and our pupils with the skills. So it's not like the workload is on me alone. Because if
Ah,
you don't train them,
yeah.
don't blame them. If you don't train them,
You don't
don't
train
blame
them.
them.
Don't blame them.
Don't blame them.
Say that
Don't
again in
blame them if
your
you
voice.
don't
Say
train them.
that again in your
If you
voice.
do not train them, don't blame them.
Hmm.
And again, if we do better, we'll do better. So if we know that this first aid skills are important and life saving skills, everybody, every living human being should be equipped with that skills in
Wow.
order to ensure that we reduce to a certain level, if not zero, emergency situations.
Emergency situation. Amazing. Amazing. Ah, I'm so glad. Now I wish I work in your school. So I can be able to pick up all these necessary life-saving skills. I think it should go
I
even
know,
beyond
right?
school. Everybody on the streets must be able to save.
Everybody, everybody,
Honestly,
everybody.
honestly. Amazing. Well done, ma'am. So, as someone who has made significant impacts in the disability space, what advice would you give as a professional and someone who trains people every day? What advice would you give to professionals and organizations looking to promote inclusion and accessibility in their own spaces?
Okay, so first things first, I would say that to ensure that inclusivity is achieved way above average, which is 50, 70, 80%, we must ensure that inclusion um, starts by listening. You need to know what they need. It's not what you think,
Hmm.
right? You need to know what they need. If you are doing or implementing strategies without those with lived experiences or those who are close to people with lived experiences, then your intervention will be wasted. It's
Hmm.
like some sort of, I usually liken it to prototyping. You test and then to ensure that it is achievable.
Hmm.
Again, I like to say that inclusion is about authentic representation,
Authentic.
right? It's about authentic representation. So the boxes that I would say those who want to be inclusion practitioners must tick the boxes of authentic um, representation, ensuring co-creation, ensuring systemic change.
Hmm.
Again, they must also engage persons with disabilities, not just as their subjects or beneficiaries, right? Because they're not their beneficiaries. They're not a pity case. They're not a pity party.
Hmm.
Engage them as partners. Engage them as leaders.
Hmm.
Get them to do the work. Ensure that you leave the door open
Wow.
so that there is access. Now, if this person is going to crawl in, I like to say jump in, roll in, slide in, flip in, or hop in, what is most important is this person
Is
has access. The person gets in. Ensure that there is always space at the table for representation. It's not a seat at the table. Some people might not sit, depending on their condition.
wow.
So there is a space, not leave a seat for everyone. It's not, oh, everybody should have a shoe. How about those who don't have legs?
Hmm.
What is important for them to fit in is what you must do to them. So it is something that is some sort of partnership. Engage your beneficiaries. Not they're not pity party. Then you must also invest in capacity building as yourself. You have somebody who has lived a disability. You have somebody who has lived a disability. Time changes. They say change is constant, which is
Hmm.
why you must continue to engage in capacity building. You must know best practice. You must know what has changed. You must get yourself in tune with what was and what is. This means that you must be an innovator, or better still, an adopter. I like to always talk about the diffusion of innovation theory that talks about the different types of people in a system, where you have the innovators, adopters, early majority, late majority, and the laggards. So, if you're somebody who's going to be working with inclusion, ensure that you are either an innovator, somebody who is always ready to jump on what is trending and what works. New
Hmm.
ideas. as opposed to being a laggard that is on the part of that's not how it has been done. Don't be so that don't they do am, you know, and except there is a reward or a consequence, they're not ready to shift. So be an innovator, somebody who jumps on the wagon. Be an adopter, somebody who follows the innovator. Be an early majority. Hey, it be like say this thing they work, make I follow them. Or hey, make I not be the last person, late majority. As opposed to being a laggard who believes that as an educator, children with disabilities should be educated in different spaces. I'm given an excuse. In this way, they're not learning from anything because there are different things to be taken away. But if you are an innovator, you believe in inclusive education and that every child has the right to learn in equal settings, the same space, but you'll be doing to them what they deserve at the end of the day. But first things first, integrate them into what is called the norm, if there is a norm at all. Again, ensure that you get in tune with the policy and policy advocacy. Advocate for the right things. Don't make noise. Don't make noise because you want to be heard, right?
Yes.
Advocate for the right thing. Their policies, our blueprints are beautiful. What you should be advocating for is the implementation, if not properly implemented, as well as monitoring and evaluation, and maybe a review if needed. But don't make noise because you want to be heard. Don't believe that there is a one size fits all strategy for everyone. Above all, remain committed because inclusion is a continuous journey. It's not start and stop because it's not paying the bills now, you jump on something else.
Yes.
Inclusion is not a one-off event. It is a continuous journey. You can do it in your space without being extremely loud,
It
but
doesn't have to
satisfy your
be.
conscience and be, yeah, and be genuine with what you do.
Wow, amazing. Don't make noise. Be an innovator, be an adopter. That's amazing. Thank you so much for that, now. So looking ahead, what are your plans? What are the things which you look forward to from your non-profits? What are your plans for scaling up your foundation's initiatives and continue to drive positive change in your community, ma'am?
Um, what are the plans? So we have short term, medium term, and long term. Above all, I like to make sure that these plans are smart, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So I mentioned a certain number of projects at my opening introduction of what I do.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we're looking at scaling them up. First things first, we're grateful to Ford Foundation for their partnership that helped us expand our center. We used to be really small. So this way we've been able to take in more children with disabilities in the community. So it gives them a sense of belonging. So that, is one box that is ticks. We still need to do more. But I mean, at least the basic needs of expanding our classrooms as well as getting more toilets and some other accessible items have been sorted. So that is a one-off. Again, we would want to also deepen our impact across. So we literally are around Lagos and maybe some other consulting one of outside of Lagos. But now we want to deepen our impact and broaden our reach to other communities, even around Lagos, because Lagos first is one community. So
Yes.
broadening our reach, and then charity begins at home but doesn't end there. I should do something in Edo State, which is where I'm from.
Wow.
So that is also in the pipeline with our project. So the Disability Arts, Robotics, Technology and Safety project has kicked off, and working with other disability cluster foundations, it's been a good journey. Then, of course, the Teach a Child to Read, that's our TACT R project. If a child cannot read, the child cannot process information.
Mm.
And then comprehension is lost. No matter the information that you are giving that child, the child cannot process it because the child cannot read. Again, I like to always say that when the primary caregiver is no longer around, what happens to that child? So a certain level of independence is
Right.
expected. In this regard, it might not be depending on the ability and cognitive extent of this child. It might not be that the child might be able to read, but child to be able to process information. This is also a strategy to amplify this intervention. Again, Special People, Special Stories is back on air. We have been videoing quite a number of interviews, and this is basically our mantra is ensuring that we are able to amplify the voices of persons with disabilities, telling the stories of how they've been able to turn sour lemons into sweet tasting lemonade. So we have a couple of stories that we're going to put out very soon. It's a way of also raising awareness that disability is not contagious. So we're amplifying that.
Yes.
It's a way of raising awareness that if it be you or if it be me, because no one ever planned to wake up with a disability. It happens. So disability can also happen as a result of happenstance and life's lemons. So raising awareness, which would also amplify maybe, or also make some people believe in inclusion, right? We're also working to expand, our teacher training out of our space. Well, I've been doing that already. So I'm now going into different schools to now train teachers to see that inclusive education is not a pipe dream. It's not something that is unachievable. And it doesn't even have to be pricey, because our reality is we have different sets of persons in the socio-economic ladder. And so not all fingers are equal, as we said. And so if they fall into either strata of this ladder, right? Socioeconomic ladder, we should be able to modify our intervention or make accommodations for them when we teach them. And as educators, one big thing that we're good at is improvising. So low income, middle income, high income, we should be able to do to each child what they deserve until, better help comes. Our ultimate goal, right, is to make inclusion the norm,
Wow.
not a side, right? Not the exception. Make
Enorm.
inclusion the normal. Ensure that we return inclusion to being normal, because we have tweaked what should be normal to abnormal, ensuring that we alienate some children because of their disability or peculiarity. That's abnormal. But ensuring that they are all in the same space, first of all, is what is normal, because we all breathe the same air.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. It's been a wonderful time. I wish you all the best with all the plans in the pipeline. And I'm looking forward greatly to how I can personally contribute to that to make it a success. So that I'm looking forward to
You're welcome. You're welcome.
with you, Mama. Well done, ma. So before we go, in few minutes, in few words, what makes you different from the rest?
Well, what makes me different is I love what I do unapologetically. So I never get to work a day in my life. I mean, people say this is your energy that you're using to do all these things you're doing. I don't see it as work.
Wow.
I may be stressed, but I'm not tired. When you're tired, you're giving up. I may be stressed, which is normal, right? But I'm not. I may be tired as well, but I'm not stressed. I'm not. Hey, this thing wants to kill me. Who sent me? No. So love what you do. I love what I do unapologetically, and I believe that the sky is big enough for everyone. I believe in collaboration. If we go together, we will go far. If you're going to use the information that I have said, okay, let's do this together, and you're using it to shine and run because you want to be commended or acknowledged, it's on you. It doesn't stop the work that I do in my space, right?
Wow.
So I love what I do, and I do not see anyone as a competition. What is the common good? What's the outcome? It's the common good of the child with disability, right? So let's
Yes.
keep doing what we're doing. So
Yes.
that's it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm inspired greatly. And this is a great pleasure. And I'm very sure this impact that you've made on this show will go far. Thank you so much for your time, Ma. I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
Any last thoughts before we go? Anything you want to say before we go?
I would say passion drives commitment, right? And that commitment leads to profits at the end of the day. So ensure that you're passionate about what you do, be committed to it, and you can probably earn from it genuinely. And
Jen,
because if you know better, you would do
do
better.
better. Wow. Thank you so much, ma'am. And it's a wrap on today's episode, everyone. Thank you so much. If you have any question for Dr. AK Baby, please put it in the comments and we'll be sure to get the answers to you. Thank you so much for joining in on the Exceptional Professionals. Please remember to stay exceptional in your field. Bye.